The mechanic ghosted her the second he saw her paycheck stub fall out of her bag. What he didn't know. That stub was from a company he was about to lose his job to. Stay with me, because this story is wild. Maya Castillo was 29 years old and had exactly $14 in her checking account the night Derek Holt stood up from their dinner table, said he'd just remembered something, and never came back. She didn't cry right away. She just sat there, staring at the breadsticks, doing math she'd done 1,000 times before. How many days until payday? How many shifts until rent? She worked the overnight stocking shift at a regional distribution warehouse. Steel-toed boots, a faded company polo, hands that smelled like cardboard and forklift grease no matter how many times she washed them. Derek had seen the polo folded on the passenger seat of her car when he opened the door for her like a gentleman. His face had done a thing. A small thing. A flinch most people wouldn't catch. Maya caught it. She always caught it. So why exactly did a guy who barely knew her care so much about a polo shirt? That question is about to matter a lot more than you think. Outside in the parking lot, Maya sat in her car letting the heater click and groan, mascara doing its slow, humiliating slide down her cheeks. That's when she noticed the black town car idling 2 spots down, and the man getting out of it wasn't dressed for a warehouse parking lot. Tailored coat. The kind of watch that doesn't need a brand name because the silence says enough. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at her. Why was a man dressed like that parked outside a diner in a town with 1 stoplight? Hold that thought. He knocked on her window, and when she rolled it down half an inch, he said the strangest thing. You work nights at Halstead Distribution. It wasn't a question. Maya's stomach dropped. Do I know you? Not yet, he said. But you're about to. His name was Adrian Cole. He told her that much, at least, standing there in the cold while she gripped her steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left in the world. What he didn't tell her, not that night, not for weeks, was that he was the man whose signature was on the acquisition papers sitting in his briefcase. Papers that named Halstead Distribution. Papers that, if the board approved them Friday, would lay off 400 people inside 30 days. Maya knew none of this. She only knew that this stranger had crouched down next to her window in 28-degree weather and asked, simply, "Are you okay to drive, or do you want to sit somewhere warm for a minute?" What happens when the man who might end her job is the same man holding her coffee cup steady so it doesn't spill? Keep that in your back pocket. They ended up at a 24-hour diner 2 blocks down, fluorescent lights, vinyl booths, a waitress named Pearl who'd worked there since Reagan was in office. Adrian ordered black coffee. Maya ordered nothing, then changed her mind and ordered pancakes out of pure spite at her own bad night. So what do you do? Maya asked, mostly to fill silence, that you're wandering diner parking lots at 11 p.m. in a coat that costs more than my car. Adrian almost answered honestly. Almost. I'm in logistics, he said instead. True, technically. Just missing the part where he ran the company that was about to swallow hers whole. Logistics, Maya repeated, unimpressed. Cool. I move boxes for a paycheck that doesn't cover my car payment. We're basically the same. Something flickered across his face, guilt, maybe, or recognition, or both, and Maya filed it away without understanding why. She had no idea that the very next morning, Adrian was scheduled to sit across a boardroom table and decide whether 400 people like her kept their health care. For 2 hours, they talked. Not about logistics, not about acquisitions, not about Derek the mechanic who'd vanished over a polo shirt. They talked about Maya's little brother, who she was putting through community college on a warehouse paycheck and sheer stubbornness. They talked about her mother, who'd raised 2 kids alone on a school cafeteria salary and still managed to make every birthday feel like a parade. Adrian listened the way some people never learn how to, like the next sentence actually mattered more than whatever he was going to say in response. When Pearl finally came by to close out the tab, Adrian paid for both, waved off Maya's protest, and slid his number across the table on a napkin. For emergencies, he said. Or pancakes. Either. Maya almost threw the napkin away 3 times that week. She kept it instead, tucked in the visor of her car, and told herself it meant nothing. What she didn't know was that Adrian had spent that same week doing something his board would have called insane, quietly delaying the Halstead vote. Not canceling it. Delaying it. Buying time he couldn't fully explain to anyone, including himself. He texted her Thursday. Pancakes again? My treat, no logistics talk this time. She said yes before she'd even decided to say yes. This time it wasn't a diner. He picked a small Italian place 2 towns over, quiet enough that nobody would recognize him, which Maya noted but didn't question. He pulled out her chair. He asked about her shift, her brother's midterms, the playlist she hummed along to while she drove. He didn't once mention his job, his company, or the 400 names sitting in a folder back at his office, one of which, unbeknownst to either of them in that exact moment, was hers. It was 3 dates in, pancakes, pasta, and a long walk around a half-frozen lake, before Maya finally pressed him on the logistics thing. You've mentioned logistics 4 times and told me nothing, she said, arms crossed against the cold. What do you actually do, Adrian? He opened his mouth. Closed it. And for the first time since the parking lot, Maya watched him look genuinely afraid. I run a company, he said carefully, called Vantage Holdings. Maya's brow furrowed. The name meant nothing to her. She had no idea that Vantage Holdings was the parent company about to vote on whether Halstead Distribution survived the quarter. Friday came. The board vote happened, delayed twice, now unavoidable. Adrian walked into that room having spent the week learning things spreadsheets never show you, that the night shift supervisor, Maya's supervisor, had been quietly covering payroll gaps out of her own pocket for 2 months so nobody's hours got cut short. That turnover on nights was the lowest in the entire regional network, because the team actually trusted each other. That inefficiency on a balance sheet sometimes just means people who refuse to leave each other behind. Margaret Voss, his CFO, laid out the numbers plainly, closing Halstead's overnight operation and consolidating into the larger hub 3 hours north would save the company an estimated $2.3 million a year. And it costs 400 jobs, Adrian said. It costs 400 jobs, Margaret agreed, and it improves shareholder confidence heading into Q2. Adrian thought about Maya's mother and the cafeteria paycheck that still managed parades. He thought about a brother in community college whose tuition depended on a sister's overnight shift surviving the next 90 days. He thought about a woman who'd ordered pancakes out of spite and somehow made him laugh harder than he had in 3 years. He stood up. I want to propose an alternative, Adrian said. We don't close Halstead. We invest in it. Automate the slowest parts of the floor, keep the people, retrain the staff we'd otherwise lay off into the new systems. It costs more up front. It costs less in turnover, retraining, and reputation over 3 years. Margaret didn't blink. That's a guess dressed up as a strategy. Maybe, Adrian said. I'll personally guarantee the shortfall against my own equity position for the first year. If I'm wrong, it comes out of me. Not the company. The room went quiet in the specific way rooms go quiet when someone says something nobody expected and everybody has to recalculate who this person actually is. The vote passed by 1 seat. 1. Halstead Distribution stayed open. Nobody on that overnight crew would ever know how close it came to disappearing, or whose late-night pancake order had anything to do with it staying. Nobody, that is, except Maya, who found out 3 days later, completely by accident, scrolling through a regional business newsletter her supervisor forwarded to the whole team with the subject line "We're safe." Read this. She read the article twice. Then a third time, slower, when she got to the paragraph naming the CEO who'd personally pushed the alternative plan through. Adrian Cole, CEO of Vantage Holdings. Her stomach didn't drop this time. It went somewhere colder than that. Here's the real question now. Is she about to feel grateful, or completely betrayed, and can both of those be true at the same time? She didn't call. She didn't text. She drove straight to the address listed on the company's public filings, which turned out to be a glass building 40 minutes from anything she'd ever call home, and asked the front desk for Adrian Cole like she had every right to be standing there. He came down within 5 minutes. He looked, for the first time since she'd met him, like a man with nowhere to hide. "You knew," Maya said. "Not a question." "I found out the second week," Adrian admitted. "After the diner. And you let me keep talking to you. Keep having dinner with you. While 400 jobs, my job," her voice cracked, just slightly, "sat in a folder on your desk." "I should have told you," Adrian said. "I told myself I was protecting you from worrying about something that might not even happen. The truth is I was protecting myself from you looking at me the way you're looking at me right now." Loop number 8 resolved. Yes, both feelings were true, and he knew it the whole time. Maya didn't answer right away. The silence stretched long enough that a security guard near the elevator pretended very hard to be checking his phone. "You really put your own money on the line," she finally said. "For people you'd never met." "I met one of them," Adrian said quietly. "In a parking lot. Crying over pancakes and a guy who couldn't handle a polo shirt." Loop number 1 echoed and resolved. The polo shirt that started it all comes full circle. One man fled from it, the other built a financial safety net around it without ever mentioning it. 3 weeks later, Margaret Voss, the same CFO who'd argued hardest against him, pulled Adrian aside after a leadership meeting. "For what it's worth," she said, "the retention numbers from Halstead came back. Best in the region. Looks like your guess wasn't just a guess." The gamble worked, the plan held, and even his harshest critic admitted it. Maya kept her job. Her brother kept his tuition. Her mother still threw parades for birthdays, now with slightly less math involved beforehand. Vantage Holdings finally meant something to her, the napkin in her visor finally made sense, and the logistics joke became the thing they laughed about on their second real date, the one that happened after she stopped being angry and started being honest about how relieved she was. She never did hear from Derek the mechanic again. She didn't think about him much, either. The man who almost ended things over a uniform never even got a final word in the story, he simply stopped mattering. On a Tuesday night, 6 months later, Maya pulled into the same diner parking lot out of habit more than hunger. The Blacktown car was already there. Adrian was leaning against it, 2 coffees in hand, looking entirely too pleased with himself. "Logistics," he said, handing her one, "occasionally involves knowing exactly which diner a person can't resist on a Tuesday." The mystery man waiting in the parking lot was never a threat. He'd been the answer the whole time, long before she had any reason to trust him. She rolled her eyes, took the coffee, and got in the car. Maya Castillo never got an apology from the man who left over a uniform. She didn't need one anymore. Because somewhere between pancakes and a boardroom vote that came down to a single seat, she learned the difference between someone who sees your situation and runs, and someone who sees your situation and quietly rebuilds the whole structure underneath you, without ever asking for credit. The right person doesn't need you to explain why your hands smell like cardboard at midnight. They just hand you the coffee and get in the car anyway. If this one hit you somewhere, you know what to do, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.